What's up, everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. In this video, we're going to be updating on the visit from Netanyahu. If you know, yesterday he met with President Biden and Harris. We had a speech from Harris afterwards, and then today he met with Trump and Mar-a-Lago, and so we have some video from that. The press was able to get in there and ask some questions for Netanyahu and former President Trump, and it's quite enlightening. So anyway, we're going to go over this and talk about it and what I think about it all, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you. If you're liking this kind of content, consider subscribing, like, share, all that good stuff. It helps us out, helps us grow the channel and the community, and we get more people in the chats, talking it out so that we can get some clear talk going, right? All right, so let me flip over. Yesterday, Harris and Biden both met with Netanyahu. I think roughly the meeting with Biden was about an hour or so, and then Harris's was probably about similar to that. And then afterwards, she come out and had a speech, and it was interesting, to say the least. But let me pull this up over here and get a listen to it. It's 2 minutes 39 seconds, not very long, so let's go.
So I just had a frank and constructive meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu. I told him that I will always ensure that Israel is able to defend itself, including from Iran and Iran-backed militias such as Hamas and Hezbollah. From when I was a young girl, collecting funds to plant trees for Israel, to my time in the United States Senate and now at the White House, I have had an unwavering commitment to the existence of the State of Israel, to its security, and to the people of Israel. I've said it many times, but it bears repeating. Israel has a right to defend itself, and how it does so matters. Hamas is a brutal terrorist organization. On October 7, Hamas triggered this war when it massacred 1,200 innocent people, including 44 Americans. Hamas has committed horrific acts of sexual violence and took 250 hostages.
Okay, so at this point, it seems like the same. It's coming across as the same kind of rhetoric we've heard all along from Biden. Like there's no difference. She speaks of unwavering, or that she supports and their right to defend themselves, which obviously is, everybody has the right to defend themselves. Every country, Israel included. And like she said, how they do it matters. That's key. All right. And that's the issue, right? That's been the issue this whole time, is how they have went about so-called defending themselves. Okay. But my question every time this is brought up also is, does not Palestinians have the right to defend themselves as well? Now, as much as I agree that the Hamas attack on October 7th was uncalled for and war crimes were committed, although the widespread sexual acts and stuff like that, a lot of that has been debunked. There were one or two cases that have been clarified that potentially there was a sexual act made, but even so, there were so many people that come over, and not just Hamas that come through the gate. Those you can't know who actually committed that. But either way, they did commit war crimes simply by killing innocent people and taking people hostage. So it is horrific, should not have happened, and was an unnecessary aggression against Israel. But one could argue that they still have the right to defend themselves and defend themselves against Israel and the constant occupation that Israel has had on them for decades, and the you know constant attacks that Israel does on them and has done on them for years. So this is it's that's one thing that I always bring up here, because it's like, yes, they have the right to defend themselves, but so does everybody. But you don't have the right to just completely like tear a whole population apart. You don't have the right to kill indiscriminately. You don't have the right to bomb all kinds of different places and locations, and kill innocent people, men, women, children. You don't have the right to starve them. You don't have the right to cut off their resources and prevent people from coming into. You don't have the right to do any of that. Those are all war crimes. So regardless if you want to argue that Hamas has committed war crimes, which they did, you must then I place the exact same argument on Israel, because they've done the same thing tenfold. Over 40,000 people killed at this point. Estimations of potentially up to 180 plus thousand could be killed before it's all over with, or more. We have no idea who's actually up under the rubble, and the ability for them to even uh, identify or body counts, or you know this it's been for months that they have not been able to actually keep up with it. So, um, but anyways, let's continue.
There are American citizens who remain captive in Gaza. I also expressed with the Prime Minister my serious concern about the scale of human suffering in Gaza, including the death of far too many innocent civilians.
Now, this is the part from here going forward that apparently Netanyahu, has been reported, um, is fuming over. And as you'll see in the videos at Mar-a-Lago, Trump calls, I'm sorry, calls disrespectful to Israel. Okay.
And I made clear my serious concern about the dire humanitarian situation there, with over 2 million people facing high levels of food insecurity, and 500,000 people facing catastrophic levels of acute food insecurity. What has happened in Gaza over the past 9 months is devastating. The images of dead children and desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety, sometimes displaced for the second, third, or fourth time. We cannot look away in the face of these tragedies. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering, and I will not be silent. Let's get the deal done so we can get a ceasefire to end the war. Let's bring the hostages home, and let's provide much-needed relief to the Palestinian people. And ultimately, I remain committed to a path forward that can lead to a two-state solution.
So, you heard there. She is committed to a two-state solution. Okay. I will not be silent. She states the atrocities, starvations, all this going on. That's the type of rhetoric that you didn't quite hear from Biden. He hardly really went into the imagery and what's been coming out of Gaza. Now, granted, what she said there was mild in comparison to what truly is coming out. But is any part of that disrespectful? Is any part of that a lie? She's clearly just stating what's going on and that she won't be silent on the fact of working towards a ceasefire and and trying to get that humanitarian aid and stuff in there to try to have allow the Palestinians to have the right that they have, to live, and ultimately have their own governance with the two-state solution argument at the end. There's nothing disrespectful about that whatsoever. Now, like I said, this is harsher than, and that's like loosely harsher, using the word harsher than Biden. Anything Biden has pretty much said up to this point. Still, I'm not sure how hard but at this point, right now, though, she can't really do anything. She can speak what she would like to see done as at the moment, presumptive nominee for president. But still, she's not president until, even if she does win the nomination or win the election, she's not president until January. So she still doesn't have any real power until then. I mean, you could argue that once she does become the nominee and going forward, that, basically Biden, or at this point, really, Biden is already kind of a lame duck president. But, and maybe she will get a little bit more in the front lines as far as this situation is going forward. Um, and I think that's the reason why a lot of people argued, or has been arguing that Biden should have just went ahead and stepped completely down and let her take over the presidency right now. Although he claims that he's fine and he can go on, and if to some argument, I guess you could say he can. It's not really an issue unless he does like tremendously like go down before January. Like, obviously, if there's something that happens that he cognitively does completely go, um, clearly she would have to take over. But so now, like I said, the argument could be that he could have went ahead and stepped down and let her take over so that she would have full control at this point, and we could really see how she would you know uh, work on this issue. And that's a good argument for that. Um, because until then, she kind of doesn't have the power needed. She can say how she feels about it, but the weight of what she says may not at this point matter quite yet. Although Netanyahu's going to make a big deal out of anything, he makes a big deal about just protesters. I mean, what or anybody that's against or has some kind of criticism towards Israel. So he gets butthurt over. So, anyways, good. I think a pretty decent speech by her after the fact, showing a little bit of strength. The I will not be silent. That was a very interesting thing to say. Um, and I give her props on that. Uh, but still, what happens going forward, I don't know. But then, like I said, and she then turned around and had, after all this was situated, she got through that. Then she turned around and now she has um, Obama's support. Now he has endorsed her for president. She has all the delegates needed to take the nomination, and she's getting the full backing of all that. We already because you had her state about debating, answering about debating Trump. She seemed to have no problem. She said she was ready to debate Trump on whatever it was, September the 10th or something. Um, he has kind of somewhat made comments backing out of it, claiming that she is not technically has the nomination, so anything could happen between now and then. So they're not going to commit to it. That was the argument, that it could change, um, and that because especially since Obama hadn't even given his support yet behind it, and then immediately after Trump released that, Obama gave his support. So I don't. At this point, it's pretty much guaranteed that it's going to be Harris. You've got every pretty much major uh, elite in the Democratic Party has thrown their support and endorsement. Most of the governors, especially all the ones that potentially could have taken the place, and taken the spot, have pretty much endorsed. So it's almost a foregone conclusion that Harris is going to be the nomination. So, and I think to some degree, Trump is and his campaign are a little bit scared about that, because the only argument they've had so far is that she's a little weird, like she talks weird, or whatever. Like, they don't have a whole lot of critique at her right now, and or outside of saying that she's just gonna be Biden 2.0 or whatever. Uh, Whatever. Um, so, anyways, so now we have a video of Donald Trump welcoming Netanyahu. This is pretty short, only 41 seconds, but it's just him welcoming in.
The greatest dinner I've ever had. Come on, let's get a good, beautiful. Great.
Man, Netanyahu's smiling from ear to ear. He's so happy to be there.
Yes. The picture, photo of one of the toddlers that is now still held hostage in Gaza.
And whose fault is that, Netanyahu? Whose fucking fault is that? That's yours. Repeatedly, they have asked for you to commit to getting them out. And the only significant time we've gotten any hostages out was during a ceasefire. But he repeatedly pushes against, comes up with all kinds of excuses not to agree to another ceasefire, not to agree to helping get captives out. He just wants to continue forcing his way and doing military force to possibly get them out. And the only amount of people that have gotten out by military force is like, what, 4 people? Any other military force has killed them. So, but he's working on the psychology of people who follow in this sphere by bringing a picture of a young girl as held hostage there. Well, that young girl, if she's still alive, you could have already had out. I'm just saying. This is disrespectful. This is disrespectful.
Grandfather wants me to give it to President Trump.
That's right. We'll get that taken care of.
All right. I'm guessing this is maybe his. I don't know. I don't know who. I've never seen or heard about maybe a wife of Netanyahu or something. I don't know. She sits next to Trump though in the meeting, so I don't know. We'll see. Well, I guess we'll see. But here is the press coming in and questioning today during the meeting dinner, I guess, that they had. So,
could you tell me, Mr. Prime Minister, how Kamala Harris's remarks yesterday might have impacted negotiations on a ceasefire deal?
Well, we're trying to get one, and I think to the extent that Hamas understands that there's no daylight between Israel and the United States, that expedites the deal. And I would hope that those comments don't change that.
Mr. President, do you have any reaction to Kamala Harris's remarks yesterday?
hope those comments don't change that. That there is no deadline to getting to a ceasefire agreement? Is that what he's saying there? Meaning, Hamas understands that we don't have a deadline for a ceasefire, so we can just keep the talks going as long as we want. And he's hoping that Kamala Harris's comments don't make a difference in that.
Do you have any reaction to Kamala Harris's remarks yesterday after she met with the Prime Minister?
No.
Now remember, Trump was, all that talk about after the shooting, that he had a whole different light on stuff, and going to be more unifying and stop all the harsh rhetoric. But yet we've seen since that is not the case. Trump has continued to be Trump in his convention speech. He went on to stoke fires and everything like he always does, and you'll see here he continues.
Oh, I have no remarks. She's a radical left person. San Francisco, destroyed San Francisco. She's really a destroyer. She doesn't know how to build, and I think her remarks were disrespectful. They weren't very nice.
How are they disrespectful? How are they not very nice? She literally said she gives support to Israel. They have the right to defend themselves. But they have to, depend upon how they defend themselves. And that they need to come to a ceasefire agreement and end the war and bring the hostages. What part of that is disrespectful? At all? I won't be silent? Was it disrespectful to talk about the Palestinian people and how much they have endured? Death, destruction, if that was disrespectful? So you see it now. You see it right now how Trump views this and how he views this war and the support for Israel.
Pertaining to Israel, I actually don't know how a person who's Jewish can vote for her, but that's up to them. But she was certainly disrespectful to Israel, in my opinion.
Mr. Trump, has your relationship with the Prime Minister repaired at all?
No, it was never bad. I would say it was always good. No president has done what I've done for Israel, and we've always had a very good relationship. And if I didn't, I have a secret weapon. You know what it is? Sarah. You're sitting right over here. I have Sarah. As long as I have Sarah, that's all that matters.
Do you feel like after this trip, Mr. Prime Minister, we're any closer?
Who is Sarah? I guess it's connected to, I don't know.
To a ceasefire deal?
I hope so, but I think time. I hope.
Ceasefire deal?
I have Sarah. As long as I have Sarah, that's all that matters.
Do you feel like after this trip, Mr. Prime Minister, we're any closer to a ceasefire deal?
I hope so, but I think time will tell. We're certainly eager to have one, and we're working on it.
Are you sending teams to Rome?
Sorry?
Are you sending teams to Rome to continue those negotiations?
We're dispatching the team. probably in the beginning of the week.
Can you tell us the status of the hostage negotiations?
I think there's been some movement because of the military pressure that we exerted. I hope that there will be sufficient movement to get the deal completed.
Bullshit. You've done what? You hope a ceasefire will happen, but you've done everything to prevent a ceasefire. This man is a disgrace. His speech in Congress was a disgrace. That was disrespectful. That was entirely, you want to talk about disrespect, that was entirely disrespectful to our entire nation. As you see, Trump will give full support. And he's willing to give them whatever they want to get it done. So you have one side who in Harris may be continuation of Biden, who knows, but she has had moments, and there's been reporting from people in the administration where Harris quite often had a harsher view on the war and on the situation, as far as the catastrophic events and stuff that were happening, and the damage and the death and everything towards the Palestinian people. Like, she has had a much more like negative look on that and less support for that. So there you have one side where at least there's some vision or some possible restraint that will be exerted on Netanyahu and the Israeli government and the IDF and their actions so far. But clearly, the other side will give whatever he wants to them. Full support. Let's get it done. So if you're tired of seeing what's been happening over in Gaza, if you're tired of seeing, if you think that there have been war crimes committed, if you think that there's a genocide being committed, if you think that it has been out of hand and should have ended a long time ago, and the hostages brought back, and some sort of movement towards Palestinian governance, and you know, if you feel that way, then clearly the decision should be easy. This is just ridiculous. You had, I reported in the last one how I felt I didn't think that there was a whole lot of protesting going on. I mean, I knew there was protesting going on, but hadn't heard the reports of the extent of it. So I want to make a clarification there. There was a way more protesting than I thought was going on. Um, you had a couple of apparent violent things happen, but majority of it was peaceful. Apparently, there was some graffiti work done. Um, shouldn't have been done, I'm sure. There was also a burning of a flag that upset a lot of people, and a placement up of a Palestinian flag. I'm not completely sure if those were in the exact same location. Uh, but yeah, a lot of people, there was a lot of uh, pushback on that, the whole burning of the flag, uh, and that those people should be put in jail or should be whatever. But you have to understand that that is a uh, free speech right, whether you like it or not. Uh, and that is something that has been already a case already been presented and judged on by the Supreme Court. So there's precedent that that is a part of free speech. Whether you may like it or not, people have the right to do that. They can't be jailed for it. They can't be in prison. They can't be, you know. So that's their right. And it's amazing to me how the ones that always try to trump around talking about first rights, speech rights and everything, but yet when something like that happens, they want to cancel. If you're for free speech, you're for free speech, whether it's good free speech or bad free speech, or in your view. So, uh, furthermore, this is going to be controversial, but why are you praising and glorifying a flag in the first place? I mean, I have no problem with supporting my country when my country is doing right by its people and by others around them. And I have and you can have pride in that when that is happening. But there's nothing wrong with criticizing your government, the actions of your government or any other government when they are not doing the will of the people, or when they are contributing or quite literally performing a genocide on another group of people. You have every right to protest it. You have every right to condemn it. You have every right to criticize. What are we doing when we say that we can't do that? There's no reason to feel proud when that is going on, and you have the right to not feel proud. And I'm gonna tell you straight out right now, I don't feel proud. I don't feel proud of my nation. I don't feel proud of my government, of the leaders. Um, so why should I feel proud about a flag when the flag at this point isn't representing me and my thoughts? I mean, yeah, I'm not out here burning a flag because I think that's ridiculous too. It doesn't do anything. But at the same time, I'm not sitting here praising my flag. I'm not sitting here saluting it because I don't worship a flag. The flag is not my idol. Question is, why is it yours? So, uh, yeah, there was some pretty good some things that happened um, during the protests. Uh, course, pepper spraying on some and everything too. Like I said, there was some bad sections, but majority of it was respectful. Majority of it was peaceful. Uh, Ultimately, it wasn't big enough though. They tried to stop him. They did. They tried to stop him going into Congress. Tried to get in the way, but ultimately, he got through and gave his ridiculous speech. Um, but the one thing that I did miss also in that video was that not only did you have Rashida Tlaib with her, she stood tough, and props to her for being there with her signs, war criminal, and committing a genocide and whatnot. You had about only half of the, roughly somewhere around half of the Democrats there. The rest of them did not even go. That I didn't realize. I thought the majority of them were there, but it was about half of them actually weren't. And then also quite a few of them walked out in the middle of his speech. Uh, you had Mike Johnson um, introducing him or whatever as his excellency or something like that. My goodness, where, what has we're talking about a war criminal here. One of the worst people that we have seen in our lifetime since Hitler, in my opinion. He's evil. He's the epitome of evil. Um, you even had, there seemed like there was a section of that video not there, because that seemed like the video that I saw in a different angle had a little bit more to it, where Trump, or maybe I didn't realize it there, but Trump was speaking about Iran and the nuclear agreement and all that. I mean, yeah, how about him ripping it up and all the stuff that he did during his presidency, and that the Biden presidency, they haven't done anything, that they he could have gotten a deal made and all that, and even admitted. I, I need to, because that wasn't in this video. This video was only 2 minutes long. Give me a second. He literally admitted that Iran was following and was not doing anything illegal, but yet he treated him ripping up the Iran agreement as good and positive, and that then we would have gotten into another agreement. If they weren't doing anything wrong, why did you rip the agreement up to begin with? Just to then argue that you would have gotten into another agreement and that Biden and them could have, but they didn't, which is true, but it didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense at all. But the first, let's see here. This was the first one.
Can you tell us what you talked about? Yes.
Just general.
I hope so.
It's a very tough situation. The hostages, they have to be given back immediately because there can be no way that they're in good shape. They're obviously not being treated properly. And you hope that they're okay, but there are a lot of hostages, I'm sure, that will not be okay. And that's just not an acceptable situation.
Did you guys talk about what your working relationship would look like if you were reelected in November?
We don't have to. We've had a good relationship. I was very good to Israel, better than any president's ever been. And we did so many Golan Heights. We did Jerusalem, the capital. We actually built the embassy at Jerusalem, and the Iran nuclear deal.
Yeah, he speaks about all the things he did. Golan Heights, which has been stated by UN as illegal. It should not have been annexed, and given the moving of the embassy to Jerusalem in the capital or whatever, that was illegal. It should not have happened.
Unfortunately, the Biden administration didn't do anything. We terminated the Iran nuclear deal, which was a tremendous thing, maybe the best thing that I did for Israel, but unfortunately the Biden
Ripping up the agreement was the best thing.
administration didn't do anything about it. We could have had a deal 1 week after the election. We would have had a deal with Iran, and everybody would have been happy. Yeah, but they didn't do anything with it. We had all the cards. Iran was not using terror at all because they didn't have the money under.
Iran was not using terror at all because they did not have the money. He's arguing that they prevented them to have the money and all that. And they did not, they weren't reigning terror at all. But yet, you still ripped up the agreement. And now they're free to do whatever. And he states this.
Under the Trump administration, we gave them no money. They didn't have money. Nobody was buying their oil. And now they're a rich country. So it's too bad. But we would have had a deal with Iran. And it would have been a good deal for everybody, including Iran. Would have been a good deal. But it would have saved the Middle East. The Biden administration, now she's taken over, and she's worse than him. She's actually worse than him. So we'll see how it goes. But if it all works out, if we win, it'll be very simple. It's all going to work out and very quickly. If we don't, you're going to end up with major wars in the Middle East and maybe a third world war. You are closer to a third world war right now than at any time since the Second World War. You've never been so close because we have incompetent people running our country.
Here he is. This is his argument. And this is how he's working over on, this is where he works with Netanyahu. The current administration, if it continues, we're going to have World War III. If we're going to have World War III, it's because of the guy sitting across the damn table from him. They are on so many fronts right now between Hezbollah, Yemen, and everything else because he won't stop against Gaza. The only reason Hezbollah is going against them is because of what they're doing in Gaza. The only reason why Yemen and the Houthis from Yemen are going against him is because of what he's doing in Gaza. They have stated previously before that they would stop their attacks if Israel ceased fire on Gaza. Simple as that. Which they did in the one ceasefire that we did have for whatever it was, 6-7 days or whatever. They did not. They ceased. They ceased their fire too. But since he went back and there has been no ceasefire, they have continued, and they've continued to rise up the attacks and stuff, putting more and more pressure on them because they weren't stopping. So if there's a World War III, it's because of the guy sitting across the damn table from him. And he is going to help stimulate it, giving them whatever they need to do it and get it done. More or less invoking Iran and the proxies to hit back harder. The projection in this is incredible to me. Harris speaks of trying to end the war. If you try to get a ceasefire and end the war, then that's it. Everybody else stops. But this man continues to go and won't allow it. They even state, even in the Knesset last week, they voted against any kind of possibility of a two-state solution. They want to continue holding strength on Gaza and end the West Bank from for as long as they want, ceasing security control of it, and we're holding the resources. They don't want to end this. He doesn't want to end it because he wants to maintain power. Because he knows as soon as he ends the war and the calls for election that have been happening for months now happens, he's out of a job. And because of the charges that have already been brought against him, he's more than likely could see jail time. So he's trying to maintain power, keeping the war going. Like I said, Trump stated Iran was not doing anything illegal. They broke up the agreement, and they weren't. Report after report after report going into Iran, they were holding to the agreement. They were not making nuclear weapons. They were holding it at the level that the agreement was on, doing everything that the agreement said. He tore it up. And now they are back to enriching and everything else, and have been. But yet they still haven't done anything major with it. Let's keep that in mind. And now they have a different person in power. The previous ruler, died in the plane crash, and now they have somebody else over who is more of a center left for Iran, center left person. So even all that discussion at this point really doesn't matter. This is what I'm talking about. This was a disgusting week, honestly. Him coming, talking to Congress and everything. Now, today with Trump, he should have been arrested. But the U.S. does not put any weight into the ICC and any ruling that they do. So, he's a war criminal. Simple as that. And I have no respect whatsoever for him or his cabinet in government in Israel. I have nothing against Israel as a country. I have nothing against Israel as its people, citizens, population. But he is the problem. He has turned Israel into an international joke and demonized. I mean, I don't know. I'm hoping everything that Trump does not get back in office for multiple fronts. But this is one of the major ones. Because there's no telling what's going to happen then. There's absolutely no telling what atrocities we will see. No holds barred. Or what larger fronts are going to happen once. I mean, it's not like the IDF in Israel hasn't been already going damn near at 85-90%, but once you allow him in, they'll be going 100%. And there will be no ceasefire. So anyways, it's been a sucky week with this. But we've gotten some very good insight, and I hope everybody else has seen it. I hope people are seeing what's going on. Who's going to do what? And truly, going forward, who's going to be better for our country? At the very least on this front. Anyway, thank you very much for joining. If you did, if you like this content, please consider subscribing, like, share, all that stuff. Let me know in the comments what you think. What do you think about Netanyahu's visit this week, his speech in Congress, the reactions from Republicans, the reactions from Democrats, his talk with Kamala and Biden yesterday, Kamala's comments after, and then this Trump meeting. Let me know what you think. You think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think both? I don't know. Yeah. Thank you very much. And until next time, peace. Clear Talk. I'm out.